This play wins 90% of the time in the NHL, and I'm going to show you how to find it in this video. Now make sure you stick to the end because I'm going to reveal the websites that you need to implement the information that I'm going to teach you. Now if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you guys smash that like button because it helps get it out there to everybody. So that way everybody can see the right way to do sports betting. Now let's go ahead and get down to exactly which NHL strategy hits 90% of the time. And this one everybody has access to. So what it's going to be is you're going to be looking at the totals, all right? The total in the game. So pretty much the score between both teams. So we're going to be able to manipulate both sides here, all right? We're going to be able to manipulate the over and the under. Now I'm going to show you how to do that in 4 easy steps, all right? So the first step that we're going to look at, we're going to write down lines, okay? The lines or the totals that open at 5.5 and 6.5, okay? Write those down. Okay, you're going to write down throughout the whole entire day the lines that opened at 5.5 or 6.5. Lines that have opened at 6, we're going to ignore. Now, once you have those games written down, you should have a handful of games pretty much written down that have the opening number for the total at either 5.5 or 6.5. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to look within that game, and you're going to find the head-to-head trends between those two teams. And what we're looking for here is we are looking for strong head-to-head trends. So you want to see in the last 10, and like I said, I'm going to show you exactly what website to use to find this information pretty easily. In the last 10 head-to-head, you want to see strong trends. So pretty much 8-2 favoring either the over or the under, 9-1 favoring the over or the under, and then in some rare cases, this happens sometimes, where it'll be 10 to 0 pretty much in the last 10 that are favoring the over and the under. Okay, so strong head-to-head trends. This is very important. This is the most important step of the whole equation here. Now what we're going to be paying attention to with these opening numbers is 6.5, you're going to be looking at the over, and 5.5, you're going to be looking at the under. So right out the gate, these are where you're looking at with the opening numbers. This is the trends you want to line up. So if a trend is 8-2 to the over, well, that opening line should be at 6.5. Okay? If this trend is 9-1 to the under, your opening line should be 5.5. That's very important because sometimes people, when I teach this, sometimes people will get this mixed up. And they'll think 5.5 you're betting the over, 6.5 you're betting the under. That's not what we're doing here, okay? 5.5 you're looking at the under, 6.5 you're looking at the over. Now number 3, line movement. You don't want line movement to be in the opposite of the direction that you're looking at here. So if this line opened up at 6.5, let's say, that's the opening line, but now that line is 6, then we're going to cross that game out. Okay, that's not what we're looking for. We don't want opposite movement in our line. Same thing goes for the 5.5. Okay, if it opened up at 5.5 and then moves up to 6, not what we want. All right, we either want it to stay the same across with no line movement, or you're not really going to get line movement to favor your end. It's just not going to happen because that would mean you would need 6.5 to open and move to 7. Rare cases you're going to see something like this, or 5.5 opened up moving to 5. It's very rare to see that ending up happening. You're not going to want that, okay? That's not what we're going to be looking for. Now, if you guys want to fast forward through this and you want the exact plays sent to you every single day that fit the criteria that I'm teaching you, just click the link in the description. So let's go ahead and use a pretty much live example that I want to show you guys. All right, let's say the Red Wings, and this was actually a play that just ended up winning. Let's say the Red Wings playing against the Florida Panthers. So this line opened up at 5.5. So what are we looking for here? We're looking for the under. All right, that line opened up at 5.5. We're looking for the trends to be on the under. Well, the trends on this game were 1-9 favoring the under. All right, so it's going to look like this when you see it. 1-9 means 9-1. Now I don't know why the website puts it like that, but you'll see. That's exactly what it ends up looking like, and it means 9-1. All right, so head-to-head trends on this game for the under. 9 out of the last 10 times it's went under whatever number was open, what the open number was. So what we're going to do here is we're not going to just take the under 5.5, right? We're not going to take the number that the sportsbook gives us. We are going to manipulate that to give us a way bigger edge than what we already have. Now that leads us right into step 4, which is going to be the number manipulation of what we're doing here. So this right here ended up being a play. Now what did we do? We didn't take the under 5.5. Instead of taking 5.5, we moved this number to 7. And we ended up taking the under alternate total at 7. Now why do we take it at 7? The reason why we're taking it at 7 is because when it comes to key numbers in the NHL and the most common numbers and the most common number of all is actually 6. Okay, 6 is the most common number for total goals between two teams. Now we're manipulating that to go 1 above while we're focusing on the under here. Now this game didn't even come close. I think so at the end of this game it was 4-1. All right, they scored 5 goals here, so would have went under this 5.5 number anyway. But what we do is we manipulate that number and we drive it up. Now the odds are going to be higher for that, to drive that number up, but your probability goes sky high in literally games that fit this criteria. Like I said, this is an example for the under. The over would just be the complete opposite here. Okay, it would be 6.5 and you would drive that number down. So if we were looking at the over, I'm going to go through actually an example. We're going to completely do the opposite of this, and I'm going to show you an example of the over of what you would do as well. So let's go ahead and use that same example here. All right, let's use the Red Wings and Florida Panthers. Let's say it opened up 6.5. 6.5 was the opening number. Let's say it was 9-1 head-to-head trends on the over. So now we have line movement that didn't move, or like I said, rare cases you're going to get line movement in the way that you're looking. But pretty much didn't move, wasn't no negative line movement for us. We're looking at the over here, all right? The trends line up. We got 9-1 to the over. Now we're not going to just take the 6.5 number that the sportsbook gives us, okay? We're not. We're going to drive that down now, because now we're looking at the over. So we drive that down to 5. So now we would be taking this game, the alternate total at 5, thus giving us a huge percentage of a probability. And like I said, these stipulations hit 90% of the time. They literally hit 90% of the time. When you are finding the exact total that fits the criteria that I just taught you, and then manipulating that number to either be 5 or 7. So remember this, because this is important. This is very important. It's one of the most important parts. All right, if you're looking at an over, your ending number is going to be over 5. If you're looking at an under, your ending number is going to be 7. So you'd be betting the alternate total over 5 or the alternate total under 7. Like I said before, the most common number in the NHL is the number 6. So that is why we're manipulating that to be 1 above on the under and 1 below on the over. Because that is what gives you the tremendous probability of that play hitting. And like I said, the odds will be decently high, but they literally work in your favor long term, because you are going to be hitting this 90% of the time. So it still works out in your favor, as long as you pay attention and make sure that the criteria is met that I just taught you. Now let's get into the best website that you could use to find this data. All right, the best website to find the head-to-head for the last 10 is going to be Covers. All right, covers.com. And what you'll do is you'll go to NHL matchups, and then you'll click on head-to-head trends. Now it will show you hot trends for each team. That's not what you want to pay attention to. You want to make sure you're looking at head-to-head trends between the two teams that are going against each other. And like I said, you will see numbers like this: 8-2, 9-1, sometimes 10-0. You'll see numbers like that. But then you'll also see sometimes numbers like this: 7-3, 6-4, 5-5. That's not what we're paying attention to in this scenario. We just want numbers to look like this. Okay, and like I said, sometimes the layout on there will give you, because they'll put the over on this side, under on this side. Sometimes you'll see 2-8, 1-9, or 0-10. That just means there's still strong trends, but those are just favoring the under. They just put it like that sometimes on the site. Okay, but that just means that it's favoring the under if the heavier number's on the other side. But that is the website you will use to find those head-to-head trends, and it's the easiest way to find it. Like I said, you literally are clicking 2 buttons. Go to the website, click the matchup, click the head-to-head trends, boom, shows you right there.